In Russia, we've got Vladimir Zhirinovsky. He's a guy who's made a lot of news in the past. He's the guy who was known for his anti-Semitic tirades and then later found out he was Jewish. Oops. But partly Jewish, and he says just a drop of Jewish blood doesn't change anything about how Russian I am. Now, that has not held him back in Russia, unfortunately. He's the leader of the Liberal Democratic Party, which apparently does not mean the same thing it does here in the U.S. And he's the deputy speaker of the Duma, so very significant player in Russia. He's having a press conference. They're talking about Easter. And he talks about this tradition of how you have to kiss girls on Easter based on something or other. And then he does something incredibly strange. He pushes his male aides towards the female reporters and asks them to, at the very least, kiss them. In fact, some have reported this as threatening to rape them. Now, we're not sure that's the case. Our own interpreter did not hear that word being spoken. But let's take a look at some of the videotape here, and you Russian-speaking people in the audience can tell us which way it breaks as well. So let's watch together.
Христос воскресе! Воистину воскрес! Христос воскресе! Воистину! Иди, целуй ее, целуй, обними, целуй, хватай! И вторую бери, целуй ее сильнее, и ты вторую бери, целуй! И ты иди, целуй! Христос воскресе! Христос! Где надо беременным здесь стоять? Здесь только без беременных, понимаете? Потому что если беременная, домой! Нет, беременным здесь стоять не надо! Не надо! Поберегите ребенка будущего! Нам хватит здоровья! Она довольна, а вы что лезете, лесбиянка? Что вы лезете в защиту ребенка? А что вы, не хамёк, пошла вон отсюда! Вон отсюда, да! Какой орган прессы? Какой? Вот пошла отсюда, вон. Все, вы будете лишены работы в Young Turks. Все. Все, есть вопросы еще? Кто ходит на Майдане беременный и здесь, наркоманы и все. Нам нужны здоровые. На работу беременная ходить не должна. Дома сидеть и беречь ребенка. Понятно? Все. Да. И поменьше подружек лесбиянок, поменьше. Выгони их отсюда. Вон отсюда. Лесбиянки чертовы, фурии.
The BBC notes that Zhirinovsky is well known for his outbursts. Yeah, I would say so. Now, if you notice at the end there, he shoos him away, like, get away from this press conference. It didn't seem to be spurred on by any outrageous questions the women asked. Not that any question would justify that kind of response. Euronews reports that people are calling on him to resign. Now, let's talk about what he said in the video. He mentioned some homophobic slurs. If you notice at the end there, even if you don't speak Russian, he said, lesbiana, when in reality, there's no reports of any of the women being lesbians. But of course, if you're a female reporter, apparently you have some chance of being a lesbian, according to Zhirinovsky. In fact, one of the women is pregnant, and he was yelling at her for being pregnant. It's not that he didn't know, he did know. And he said, what are you doing out here instead of at home where you should be doing work when you're pregnant, right? And he's basically condemning her for doing her job. One of the women he yelled at was RT Stella Dubovitskaya, who was the one who was pregnant. Some are reporting that she's under significant trauma, and the Daily Mail, whether you believe them or not is a different question, say that she's been taken to the hospital for shock. But the whole thing was certainly shocking, there's no question. In the beginning, there's some smiles, like, what in the world is going on? By the end, it gets really ugly as there's actually physical contact and then significant yelling. He went on to criticize them for a great number of reasons. Well, we have our Russian interpreter here, Irina Nichita, who also happens to be our executive producer. Irina, what were the worst things that he said? And you say that he did not necessarily mention rape there.
Let me just put this in context. Before, when his rant started, he actually first mentioned Irina Farion. She's a Ukrainian philologist and a nationalist politician, and she has anti-Russian sentiments. So she talked about her as being crazy, that she's coming from she had a wild mother, and she doesn't have a boyfriend, she doesn't have a husband, she doesn't have any kids, so she's running around, running her mouth. That's why she got all these crazy ideas, because instead of, doing what a regular woman would do in this politician's opinion, she's actually, using her brain and doing things like that, which is kind of ironic that he's the leader of the Liberal Democratic Party. I would consider him liberal or democratic. But anyway, that's what he thinks of women. So when she was asked a question by this pregnant woman, obviously in his opinion, she should not be working, she should not be there, she should be home And, you know, women like her, apparently wild women like her, have crazy kids. And if there weren't any women like her, he says, previous to the bit that we have, he actually said that Maidan would not have happened and we would not have druggies running around if it weren't for women like you that go to work while they're pregnant. And then later he tells, because the other colleague, I guess, steps in and tries to speak for the pregnant lady or stand up for her, and he called her a lesbian, and then told security forces to take them out, crazy, devilish lesbian women, and go home and take care of your child at home. Don't come here and work while you're pregnant.
Crazy, devilish, lesbian Russian women actually sounds pretty good and might be the name of a movie I've watched before. Okay, but he apparently takes it as a negative, and I love his theory that, well, pregnant women are what lead to druggies. Well, I guess by definition, pregnant women lead to all sorts of babies that wind up doing different things. But I don't think that these women were really on the wild side. They seem like respectable reporters. Zhirinovsky, as usual, is unhinged. And he has taken the bully pulpit to a totally different meaning.